Hello, Denise R.
Hello, good
How you doing?
afternoon.
How you doing, sweetie?
I'm doing well. I'm going to
Good,
turn
good.
on chat in case somebody joins us.
That would be awesome. That would be great if someone joins us. And if you're joining us afterwards, we really appreciate that too. We understand people have time frames, and this is during the workday for many people, or it's late at night for other people. So we're just glad you're here. I'm Holly Elissa Bruno. I have the pleasure of working with,
Denise Rokicki.
and we are both trauma survivors. And that doesn't mean we're dour, unhappy, poor me people at all. What does it mean to you, Denise?
Victims. We're no longer victims.
Thank you. Thank you. The child in me, the child that was an infant and a toddler and all those other stages, which I never had, um, was a victim. She was victimized. She didn't have a choice. She had sadism, narcissism, and mental illness as her role models. None of those really helped. So even today, at age 79, I get depressed. And today I'm feeling down. And I'm just going to say that out loud that I just don't have the gumption. There are many things I want to do and love to do, but I don't have the gumption. And I believe that that's part of being a trauma survivor. What I do know to do really well is to feel those feelings, not run from them, and to accept that as a trauma survivor that I respect said, Tony A said, look, those of us that for whom our childhoods were stolen, they were stolen from us by abuse, neglect, and shaming, painting, everything else. We still can have a really good life, and yet at the same time, accept that a deep well of sorrow is in me and a deep ball of rage is in me. And I don't pretend they're not there anymore. So when my deep well of sorrow touches me and says, hey, Holly Elissa, I need your attention, I'm going to pay attention to it. And I just want to say something, Denise. I have had 3 friends in the last month, maybe even the last 2 weeks, that have lost their dogs. And anyone knows, if you've had a dog, how much love that dog is. And the sorrow of being a trauma survivor, don't get me wrong, I'm never saying that we're the only ones that have sorrow. No, I'm saying that with being a trauma survivor, my brain gets re-triggered. So I have the sorrow of the moment, and then it's like in Technicolor, all the
Right.
sorrows of the past come out. So it's not as if I have control over that, but I do have choices about that. And so by doing this program, I make a choice about it. I choose to level with you guys what it's like to be a trauma survivor. I choose to level with my friend Denise, and I choose to level with myself. So just before we begin, and our program is going to end exactly on the hour, and even though we're starting late, which is on me, and I accept that responsibility, Denise is always on time. Anyway, it's a wonderful trait. And here's the truth. Before we start this program, which is called Trauma Survivors Walking Each Other Home, we always like to give a couple of pointers about safety. So I'll give one of them. I have my water bottle here. And why does that help me? Because a lot of times my throat gets dry. That's a part of the body's being re-traumatized. I can't, my throat gets tight, it gets dry, I don't feel safe. And because of the violence in my family, sometimes I feel like I'm being choked. So if I have water, and here I am with my Poland spring water from Maine, and I drink it, number one, I'm taking care of myself. Number two, I'm doing what Denise calls the universal
Solvent.
solvent. I was going to say emolument because my lawyer's brain goes to the emolument clause, but never mind. It's a universal solvent, and it heals. And I know Denise is using her water bottle too. So the first thing we invite you to do is, if you join us, and if something comes to you that feels like, oh, I don't want to go there, you have every right to have your boundary and say, okay, this is enough for me right now. Or to text us or chat with us and say, wait a minute, we need to talk about this. And I recommend having a bottle of water. And Denise, what's another safety tip you always recommend?
The other safety tip that we recommend is that if you become triggered and need immediate, support, you can go to your telephone, touch your Google, and say trauma survivor, uh, warm line, and they will give you clicks on where to go to get support. And they're very knowledgeable people who are not going to judge you. They're going to help you, support you,
They're going to care about you. And Denise is
believe you.
exactly right. They're going to believe you. They're not going to shame or blame you. They themselves are likely to be trauma survivors. And if what you need is someone to listen and help you resolve things, just to listen and care, they'll be there, just like we're here. So let's begin. What we're doing here for the last couple of weeks is we're reading what's on it. It's not, it's
Author.
anonymous.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's anonymous. It's out without an author, but someone wrote this, and I've been calling it our ode to trauma survivors. And I'm going to invite Denise to read that. But before she does that, I'm just going to ask Denise, things are going pretty well. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I owned where I'm feeling that I'm feeling down and depressed. And that's okay to say that. But for most of my life, it wasn't. But how are you feeling?
I feel good. I had a massage this morning and
Girl, yeah.
I'm feeling very well.
Good for you. Now, how did
I
you ever
did.
decide you could do that? Let someone give you a massage.
Oh, I had to face my safety skills, and I had to, tell the therapist also that I could be triggered. And I've had the same massage therapist for a very long time, for years, and I'm safe with her.
And she knows you're a survivor.
Yep.
And how is she with that?
She's she has her own trauma, so she relates well to it, and we can talk about it. And I never have been triggered. I've always felt safe in, my body with her.
I'm really glad about that. If I trust the person and I know she's or he's caring for me, then I can pretty much let go and be there and be honest with myself and let the feelings come in. Sometimes a massage person doing a deep, what do they call it, deep tissue massage, that can hurt. And so I'm real good at saying, wait, how lighter, ouch. And they always respond immediately. It's not that I don't want a deep massage, I want healing. But sometimes if I fear deep tissue massage, then I tense. And then I'm like defeating a big part of the purpose of massage, which is to let my muscles.
Relax.
Yeah, yeah. So, how did you feel when you were in the middle of the massage and at the end?
In the middle, I felt very good. Um, she was using her elbow for a little deep massage on my butt, and well, the points, that
Oh, yeah,
where trauma and debris collect in your body. So she kind of loosens
yes,
it up with her elbow. And so in the middle of it, when she moved from one cheek around to the other cheek, I had a little like, oh God, I got like scared of the
yeah,
elbow, but she noticed that. She goes, "What's that twitch for?"
yeah. And
And I
that's
said,
something you'd mentioned before that your body quivers and lets you know when you're in
right.
danger.
Yeah. And
That's
I
important.
said, yeah, I'm a little afraid of that elbow. So she went a little lighter.
Good. That is
Yeah.
so good. That is so good. Well,
Yeah.
sweetie, glad you're taking care of yourself like that. And I do also want to check in to see if you've made any further progress on your desire to be able to communicate even better with that are
Non-speakers.
on the spectrum that can't speak. Yeah.
I have not made progress on that. As you know, I study astrology as one of my hobbies. And right
Yes.
now Mercury is retrograde, so it's not really a good time to form contracts and stuff like that. Make meetings. So right
I
now
hear
I'm
you.
kind of laid back on that little topic, but I am watching a lot of podcasts about it.
Have you learned anything recently that's been helpful?
It's um, it really has just been prompting my desire to, be available for this. That,
Good.
because it's such a life-changing experience for the student when they, so I really, it makes me happy that this is available and that I can potentially learn this skill and help people.
I'm glad you've discovered that. And if folk are listening that haven't heard Denise talk about this before, essentially Denise has uncovered what, Denise? Well, how would you describe it for someone that doesn't know about this?
It's a practice that some people use. It's actually a controversial topic because, like, the speech therapy people and some other people have commented on similar programs. And, of course, there's a lot of videos about or podcasts about people abusing it. But what you do is you teach the non-speaking individual to point to letters, to make sentences, to make words, to make sentences, to make paragraphs, to share their thoughts. And I want to learn it.
And can they sign with you too, or is that not part of it?
It's not part of it. Really, the
There's,
thing that they hold a pointer or pencil and kind of stab at the letters,
Mhm.
and the pointer goes right through it. And a lot of the controversy, which I've been paying more attention to the controversy about it,
Sure.
and a lot of the
Yeah.
controversy is that it's the prompter who is creating
Oh,
these words and sentences. So
I
that
understand
just
that.
has to do with integrity.
It does. It's like the integrity. Same issue came up with us trauma survivors for years. The threat was you didn't really experience that. Your trauma, your therapist led you to believe that. Well, honey, I've
Right.
never had a therapist trying to convince me of my trauma. If
No.
anything, back in the day, I've needed to convince people that I was so traumatized. It wasn't
Right.
anything spoken about. So I'm glad you're looking into that. And I want to say something that I'm doing too. And every time one of us takes a step, that's a step toward healing. And even though I'm feeling down, I am grateful that I took time to ask somebody who uses artificial intelligence for writing a lot. He's changed his whole way of being. And when he was first doing it, I thought, wait a minute, that's not you writing. But I have come to see that it's the same thing about integrity. If I use artificial intelligence with writing and I ask questions, for example, I want to know about a not very well known art teacher. Her name was Freda Dicker Brandeis. And I know her well because I studied her as a person who dealt with trauma surviving children in Theresienstadt, the Nazi concentration camp. It's the one that was made to look good so that people, videos could be taken there and it looked like the children were playing. And it looked like the adults had an orchestra and all of that. But everybody that went there got sent to be gassed. I mean, it was hell. And what she did was said, just give me some scraps, crayons, chalk, I'll do it and I'll be with the children. And their artwork helped them heal. And although everything came out, as you can imagine, in just swaths of darkness and pain and blood at first, after a bit, they began to recall some of the better times in their lives. And there is an art museum, an art tour that's probably online, but he used to travel physically, of these children who were all murdered terribly unjustly, just for being who they were, just for their identity. They were murdered. And yet, this woman try to help them have moments of joy. And I think of a number of people who go into hospice work.
Right.
I'm really grateful to them because they help people go through a non-negotiable part of our lives
They help a
with
lot of people, the
addiction.
people that are coping with
Exactly.
the actual death also, not only the person that is passing, but the people around them really
That's exactly.
benefit a lot from those hospice people.
Have you experienced that or heard about it?
I did when I was in kind of secondhandly. When I lived in
Mhm.
Phoenix, my next door neighbors a couple times were gay guy couples, and twice the one of the partners got AIDS during the AIDS epidemic, and went through both, visit making a visiting schedule to so that they were never alone and whatnot. But the one guy, his family was from Indiana, and he hadn't had contact with them for a really long time. And they ended up coming right at the end of
Wow.
his life. And the hospice nurse and us, the gay community
Sure.
that was around him, really changed their mind. These, conservative Indiana parents of, what gay family was.
Yeah, they saw a real loving family in
Right,
you and the rest of the people that were caring for those guys.
right.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. The PBS did a program years ago, three programs, and one of them was called In the Gloaming. And I never, it's been decades since I've seen it. Only saw it once, but it affected me so greatly because it was a young man who had no choice but to go home and live with his mother. And his mother couldn't bear that he was gay. And yet, during their time together, she came to love him again, and he came to accept how hard it was for her, and yet that he loved her. It was very powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, it was quite amazing going through that experience. And I also have my best friend when I was a kid who I used to ride bikes with her all around Toledo. She
Yeah.
was a hospice nurse.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I knew from her the way she is.
I learned when my sister, who died of autoimmune disease, terrible death, she had hospice with her for years. And in Ohio, it was interesting. My sister was in just north of Columbus, uh, Westerville, maybe.
I have a
She,
sister that lives there in Westerville.
yeah, well, that's where my sister lived in a nursing home. And in Ohio, hospice wasn't just end of life, it was there for her for a much longer period of time. And I was always
Right,
grateful for that. What I noticed the last time, and I visited as much as I could, and what I noticed the last time I was there was that the hospice nurses were so attached to my sister that it was hard for them to say goodbye. I watched them
right,
suffer with that decision, even though that's their job. We all build connection. And it's for trauma survivors, connection makes all the difference. Feeling heard, feeling seen, yes. And feeling I've got a connection with someone makes all the difference. So I would invite anyone listening right now, including the two of us, to just reflect for a moment and ask, who is it in your life that is a loving connection for you, that you feel you can be yourself with, and that connection is life-giving to you? And if people want to write in the chat, great. And if you want to contact us later, please do. We're on Facebook, and you can go to instant messaging to be it's confidential, I pray. But I'm just going to ask, and Denise, either of us can go first. Who is it that you feel you can count on for true connection, true loving connection, no matter what?
I don't really have anybody like that. I mean, I have Joe, but he's autistic, and he doesn't really, we're not demonstrative as far as our loving care for each other or support, you know. Um, I have been building relations with my sisters, and
Yes, it's great.
we have, authentic, loving connections, but not, I don't know, I don't have that much history with them.
I hear you. It's a hard question. And for me, I would say my first connection is with myself.
Yeah,
And I know that's true to you, for you too, that you
right.
have worked so hard and sought out so much help and taken risky but healing steps. Both of us have.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I want to credit you with that and credit myself with that. The first loving connection for me needs to be with myself. And
Right.
that's why you go ahead.
I have developed that, the self-love. And
And
I
it's
know I
hard.
can count on myself. And interestingly, when you were speaking earlier about your depression, it
Yeah.
reminded me that we are, one of the things that holds us back from allowing our feelings, especially unpleasant ones, is that they will overwhelm us. Once they
Mhm.
start, they are going to keep intensifying. That's one of our fears, I think.
That is absolutely what, and we've talked about this, that Dr. Bessel van der Kolk says, and the body keeps the score, is that many, if not all, of the trauma survivors from war, people with PTSD had, was this fear. And they called it the tsunami. He called it the tsunami fear. If one wave of grief comes over me, I will not be able to maintain myself. And that's similar to what we've talked about in the last couple of weeks. If one wave of panic disorder or feeling insane, like I'm going crazy, comes over me, I will fear that I will go crazy like my relatives. What I'm here to say now is facing abject grief, loss, loneliness, and facing things that, I mean, people would say drive me insane, but facing things that really have led and could lead me to just feeling totally out of control emotionally, in terms of sanity. I have faced so many of those that much as I don't love facing them, I don't know if I'll ever love that, but I do love that I don't fear those anymore.
Right.
And that's huge. We could devote a whole session to learning to care for ourselves. And I know we call it self-love. It's very, very hard because for me, because my whole family's message wasn't just, we can't be happy and you can't be happy either. It was that we can't love ourselves and you can't love yourself either. That was the message. Much as my mother was a beautiful woman and she bought all of these clothes and had matching hats, matching gloves, matching shoes. I mean, she would have shoes dyed to match her outfit. Inside of herself, she suffered. A beautiful, physically beautiful woman who suffered great mental illness inside. And that was all exacerbated by being raised by a narcissistic, alcoholic father, and probably a narcissistic mother as well. Um, very out of touch with her feelings. So let's take a look at that, unless there's something else that we can say about love, loving ourselves.
Yeah, that's one of the ways that my massage, I'm going to massage. I go once a month, and
Good.
it's, for healing, for
Yes, yes, yeah.
to accentuate that.
What is it? That body soul relationship, because that is you bearing your body to another human being, trusting your body to another human being. And that is brave for a trauma survivor of physical abuse, sexual abuse.
Right. Yeah, she is a spiritual woman too, so I,
Yep.
resonate with that part of her as well.
Yeah. It's all about trust. It's about connecting, and connection for me doesn't happen unless I build trust. And Denise, what does it take for you to build connection?
It's always it's, my intuitive sense. I have to feel it. I have to be next to that person. I have to feel their vibe. I have to, you know, and experience as well, dependability.
Yes, dependability. Um, Deep dependability. I mean, I know I am a deeply dependable person. When it comes to everyday dependability, I'm at a loss for time sometimes. I can do that. I can show up late for things. But in terms of the core of me, you can count on
Right.
me. And my friends know that. I was weeping yesterday with a friend in Africa who's lost her dog of 17 years. These dogs of trauma survivors live for so long because they know how important they are
Right.
to us. And such a conflict because two people shared this dog, and I won't reveal anything, but if both people have to agree, it's time to say goodbye to the dog.
Right.
And when there's not agreement, there's suffering.
Right.
And that's so hard. It's so hard. It's like we do it with people. Who is it that has your, what do we call it? The healthcare proxy, the one that makes decisions, end of life proxy. And it takes a lot of trust and connection, and takes a lot of courage to say, this is when it's over.
Right.
My sister Karen, I sat with her over and over again in that nursing home, which has been closed down. And at the time, it rated as one of the better nursing homes. But nursing homes are tough, especially with COVID. Anyway, uh, really tough for her to talk about dying. She was very Christian, and she didn't didn't want to talk about it. I'm not saying Christians don't talk about dying, but my other sister, who's also very, very religious, says it's God's will and we just let it happen. Um, she advises against having end of life directives,
Plans.
yeah, plans and directives. And I knew that my sister Karen wanted directives. I knew she did. And Karen was also an attorney. So it was very painful. Um, there was never anything painful about my choosing to be there for my sister. I chose to do it. I did it. I was true to it. Was I sad? Yes. But I grieved her the whole 24 years she was dying.
Right.
But was it sad when I was told by a relative, you're killing her? That was one of the harshest things I've had to deal with. And yet the self-caring, self-love came through, and I went deep inside myself. You call it your intuitive sense. I call that my soul. I go to my soul, that timeless, truth-telling, truth-living part of myself that can feel everything and doesn't judge anything. It's a very spiritual part of myself. And I could just go there and say, I know, and I said this event essentially very, very shortly after this was said to me, not very shortly, but soon enough. I said, I know you said I was killing Karen, but I also know that I did what Karen wanted me to do. And I never suffered a moment for honoring her choices about her life. I grieved. I was sad for her for all those years. But at the end of her life, I was actually relieved the suffering was so horrible. She was on a feeding tube for 8 years. So when I say I'm feeling depressed today and not much energy today, that's true. That is something that trauma survivors go to. At least I, as a trauma survivor, go through. And at the same time, deeper than the depression is this soulfulness that I have, that I trust. And I trust myself to do the loving thing. And I trust myself to eventually get there. And what I know still to be true, and you and I both share this as a similarity, it is often easier for me to make choices and be kind and loving to another than it is to me first.
Right. Well, because we were taught through with our abuse to not attend to our own sensations, but make sure the other guy's okay.
And in that, there's a good feeling.
There is.
Altruism feels really good. And you've said a number of times you like helping people feel better. I do too. And I notice the more in depth I get into that, the more sorrow there is, because the more people reveal their sorrow and their pain and their grief and their rage and their anger. I asked a trauma therapist last week, I said, so how do you do that? How do you do that? How do you sit with people that are really suffering? And he said, essentially, that he goes deep inside of himself and just maintains a state of love. And that's it. He's right. He didn't put it exactly that way, but that's what I heard him say, to
And
maintain a
that's what
state
the
of love.
soul is. The soul
Yes.
is love. It's that
Yes.
part of us that is just love.
Mhm. And 1 year, maybe 20 years ago, when I used to we've talked about this, if you've been with us, we talk about Denise doing her monthly rededication to things that she wants to work on. And I, because my birthday is New Year's Eve, for years did my birthday. And one of my commitments to myself was and it just came to me, probably directly from my soul. And it was, I wanted to see the face of God and not turn away. And of course, I saw that as a visual thing. But I think you're right. Seeing the face of God is accepting the love that's inside of me. And sometimes, like today, when I'm feeling down, it's accepting that the greatest love I can give to myself is to tell my truth.
Yep.
And weep if that's what I need to do. I wept yesterday and I did something I've never done. I took a photo of myself weeping in the worst of that. You know how we do ugly cry?
Right.
I wanted a picture of me in the ugly cry so that I could love that.
Right.
And now I've got it. There's no ugly crying. It's just the unleashing.
Right. Right. It's so valuable
And it was turned
to yourself, dear.
to ourselves. Girl, we turned it off. I mean, I turned it off at age 3, and all the way through COVID, I allowed myself little more and more increments of crying. And now I can do it, but it's never easy. Never easy for myself. So, friends that are listening, this is the truth. This is the truth about being trauma survivors. Denise does things to take care of herself. I do things to take care of myself. We're on the same path in terms of recovery, and we take different routes. And Denise often takes the route of things that help her feel better, which I applaud. And somehow for me, my pathway is to take the route, sometimes follow what's there for me, to feel the pain, to feel the anger, to feel the feelings in depth, and not to judge either of us, to accept that we both present to you ways ways of being. Take what you like and leave the rest. So let's look, Denise, I'm looking at our time. We've got 8 minutes left. Let's look at another, let's please read the whole poem. And let's go
Okay.
to the next phrase where we were getting to that we didn't look at yet. This is the anonymous ode to trauma survivors.
I'm not crazy. I was abused. I'm not stupid. I was manipulated. I'm not shy. I'm protecting myself. I'm not bitter. I'm speaking the truth. I'm not hanging on to the past. I've been damaged. I'm not delusional. I lived a nightmare. I'm not weak. I was trusting. I'm not giving up. I'm healing.
Thank you. And I'm going to start this time. The phrase that affected me today is probably the next one we were on. I'm not delusional. I was traumatized. Is that what it says?
Yep.
So
I'm not delusional. I lived a nightmare.
there you go. Okay. When I tell my truth, it's a horrible truth from my childhood. It's horrible to picture a little girl being incested. It's horrible. It's horrible to picture a little girl being beaten. It's horrible to picture a little girl being made fun of, mocked, shamed, continuously shamed. And if I were to describe the facts, you might need to turn away. And why do I say that? Because I needed to turn away. The more I accepted the truth of my own soul, of my own experience, the freer I became. And it took me decades to stop feeling I was delusional. It was easier for me to think, well, I must be making this up. He really couldn't have done that. No man would do that to an infant. No man would do that to a toddler. No man would do that to a child in a crib. But men do. And perhaps women do too. I am the only one in my family of origin that speaks this. And there have been two second cousins, one of whom spoke of her father as a monster, and the other who recognized that there was a lot of abuse going on, but harder for her to talk about sexual abuse. Denise, there's just something that, about talking about sexual abuse to children that can drive us to feel we're being delusional. And for me, it was easier for me to say, I got to be making this up. And as soon as I started thinking I'm making this up, I stopped trusting myself. I stopped believing myself. And there have been, even up until the last couple of years, the thought has come to me, I must be making this up. But in this last year, that thought has not come to me. That sense has not come to me. So I'm not delusional. I am not delusional. Trauma happens more often than we ever want to name, particularly to girls. It's 1 out of every 3 girls, 1 out of every 4 boys. And when I'm talking about sexual trauma. And if the culture says, you're delusional, shut your mouth. What's wrong with you? Why would you say something like that? He was such a good man. Your father was a saint. One of my brothers-in-law said to me, your father was a saint. Your father is a saint. And I was so grateful, and this is a point of recovery, that when I claim a bit of the truth, the gift seems to come that more truth comes. So having claimed that my father abused me when he was in a nursing home and he was abusing the nurses there, I don't think I ever could have been open to hearing that if I didn't know him.
Right.
And that's what it takes. That's a tip that I want to end with. And that they're like points of light. It's like when I accept this is the truth and I stop being delusional and denying it, that opens my heart to accept another truth from my soul. And then another truth comes, and another truth comes. And what the great gift at the same time, it's like points of light connecting until I can see much more clearly. And the other thing is happening with both of us, Denise. We have been able to build relationships with siblings, with people in our family who know we see things and have experienced things in ways that we talk about, and they still can be connected with us.
Right.
That's quite a gift.
Yes, we can be authentic,
Mm-hmm. So,
which that's the
Bernard,
whole goal.
you got it, girl. Take us home. Tell us anything you want to, even about the poem.
The goal is to be as authentic as possible, and by being authentic ourselves, we make it easier for others to practice likewise.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And the soul listens. I mean, if there is a godly presence, I don't believe in traditional religiosity. I support people that do, but it doesn't work for me. I've tried it very much. But I do believe in the soulful connection that people can have, and that honest heart to heart love can be there. And it's often not sexual. That happens too. I mean, I love when that happens. Trust me, I think it's wonderful. But I've discovered that most, if not all, in fact, all now, of my loving relationships are not sexual. Not to say I'm not open, but that's just the way it is.
And I want to send you comforting vibes from Toledo, Ohio, for the sadness that you're feeling, and feel it and be comforted by out of my soul.
I hear you, girl, soul to soul. Well, I love you, girl, and I'm so glad we're doing this. And anybody else who's listening, if you want that ode to trauma survivors, we both post it. And I'll post it again. And we will be back next Monday
Next Monday. Wait a minute, is
together.
next Monday? Oh no, the 5th is Saturday.
May Day.
Never mind.
What's May
I'll be
Day?
next Monday.
Okay, I'll see you next Monday. What's going on
Yeah.
the 5th besides May Day?
The 5th is the hands off protest, nationwide protest.
Okay. That's a Saturday so that a number of people can show up, I think, right?
Right.
Do you want to go out telling us about that so that people that are listening can know about
Yeah,
it?
if you want to, April 4th, 5th on a Saturday, it's starting at 2 o'clock. It's a nationwide demonstration against Elon Musk and Donald Trump.
Which is a protest against President Putin, because as I've
Right.
come to see, President Putin
And
is
it's
called.
called Hands Off if you want to look it up
Mhm.
on, Indivisible is the underlying organization. All right, I gotta
Okay.
run.
You got to go. Okay. Thank you,
Oceans of love.
everybody. You too,
Bye.
honey. See you next week. Stop recording. Are you sure you want to stop? I do.